They called it just a nut. Now it's Burkina Faso's $11.5 million power move. From trash to treasure. See how cashew waste is becoming Burkina Faso's secret weapon. Captain Traoré just turned a cashew shell into a $11.5 million economic revolution. Burkina Faso just flipped the script on the West, with cashew waste. Africa's future starts here. The $11.5 million factory that's shocking the world. No loans. No aid. Just smart strategy. Burkina Faso is weaponizing cashew shells. This $11.5 million plant could change everything for Africa's economy. Find out how. You won't believe how cashew waste is powering Burkina Faso's rise. What's inside this factory could shake Africa's entire economic future. Burkina Faso just took a bold step, and the world wasn't ready. Burkina Faso is making bold moves. In this eye-opening video, we dive into how Captain Ibrahim Traoré's government has launched an $11.5 million cashew processing plant. A revolutionary project that turns agricultural waste into economic power. This isn't just about food, it's about economic independence, job creation, and breaking free from foreign control. Watch as Burkina Faso transforms cashew shells into a powerful economic weapon, positioning itself as a leader in Africa's new industrial age. With local production, value-added exports, and national development at its core, this project is a blueprint for how African nations can turn resources into revenue, without debt, loans, or outside control. This is more than a factory, it's a symbol of Africa's rise, and in this video, you'll learn how the $11.5 million cashew plant works, why cashew waste is valuable, how Traoré's vision is shifting Burkina Faso's economy, why the West is watching closely, what this means for Africa's future in global trade. Comprehensive analysis of Burkina Faso's cashew industry and Traoré's economic vision. Why would a country bet its future on a discarded fruit? Burkina Faso's investment in $11.5 million cashew processing plant in Péni, launched by President Ibrahim Traoré on May 22, 2025, represents a strategic pivot toward leveraging a resource long overlooked, the cashew apple. Often discarded as waste due to its astringent taste and high anti-nutrient content, the cashew apple constitutes nearly 90% of the fruit's weight, with only the nut traditionally valued. Burkina Faso produces approximately 150,000 to 177,000 metric tons of raw cashew nuts annually, but nearly 400,000 tons of cashew apples go underutilized each year due to insufficient processing infrastructure. This discarded fruit holds untapped economic potential, as it can be transformed into juice, wine, vinegar, alcohol, and animal feed, creating new revenue streams and jobs. The decision to bet on this resource aligns with Traoré's broader vision of economic self-sufficiency and industrialization. By processing cashew apples locally, Burkina Faso aims to capture value that is lost when raw nuts are exported, primarily to India and Vietnam, where 90% of Africa's cashew nuts are processed. In 2024, Burkina Faso earned $111 million from raw cashew exports, but processed cashew products could yield up to 3.5 times more value per unit. This move addresses the structural issue highlighted by UNCTAD. African countries, despite producing over 50% of global cashew nuts, retain only a fraction of the retail value due to limited processing capacity. By focusing on the cashew apple, Burkina Faso is not merely betting on a discarded fruit, but on a model of inclusive industrialization that prioritizes rural communities, particularly women, who dominate cashew processing roles. This strategy also responds to ecological and economic challenges. Cashew trees thrive in Burkina Faso's Sahel climate, resisting drought and supporting soil conservation, making them a sustainable crop amid climate change. The Péni plant, designed to process 5,000 tons of cashews annually, will spend over $867,000 yearly on local produce, directly benefiting smallholder farmers. This initiative reflects a calculated effort to diversify Burkina Faso's agricultural economy, reduce dependence on raw commodity exports, and address poverty, which affects 40% of the population. What's the real plan behind this factory that the West is too naive to understand? The $11.5 million cashew processing plant in Péni is not just an agricultural project but a cornerstone of Traoré's anti-colonial economic agenda, which Western observers may underestimate. The real plan is to dismantle Burkina Faso's reliance on exporting raw materials, a hallmark of colonial-era economies, and build a self-reliant industrial base. Traoré's government views the export of unprocessed cashews, like gold and shea nuts, as a loss of economic sovereignty, with foreign powers reaping the benefits of value addition. By suspending raw cashew exports in April 2025, Traoré signaled a shift toward local processing, mirroring his 2023 gold refinery and 2024 shea export ban. This factory is part of a broader strategy to retain wealth domestically, create jobs, and challenge Western-dominated trade structures. Western naivety lies in underestimating the geopolitical implications. Traoré's policies align with his rejection of Western institutions like the IMF and ECOWAS, which he accuses of perpetuating dependency. The Paine plant, alongside other initiatives like tomato and cotton processing facilities, aims to reduce import dependence, e.g., for juice and vinegar, and foster food sovereignty. By processing cashew apples, Burkina Faso diversifies its economy, reducing reliance on volatile gold markets, which account for 70% of export revenue. The West may see this as a mere agricultural project, but it's a deliberate step toward economic decolonization, resonating with Pan-Africanist ideals and inspiring similar moves in Mali and Niger through the Alliance of Sahel States, AES. Moreover, the factory leverages Russian and Chinese partnerships, bypassing Western investment. Russia's Africa Corps provides security, while Chinese firms fund infrastructure, signaling a shift in geopolitical alliances. Western critics, like General Michael Langley, who accused Traoré of misusing resources, may fail to grasp that this is less about short-term profit and more about long-term sovereignty. The plant's focus on cashew apples, a resource Western markets largely ignore, underscores Traoré's intent to redefine value on African terms, challenging the narrative that African economies must conform to Western priorities. How does the $11.5 million cashew plant work? The Paine cashew processing plant, costing CFA $6.65 billion, $11.5 million, is a state-of-the-art facility in Burkina Faso's Hauts-Bassins region, set to be operational by December 2025. Spearheaded by the Burkina Faso Council for Agro-Pastoral and Fisheries Sectors, CBF, it is designed to process 5,000 tons of cashews annually, focusing on both nuts and the previously discarded cashew apples. The plant will produce a range of derivatives: cashew nuts, juice, wine, vinegar, and alcohol, with potential for animal feed and biogas from waste. It integrates advanced technologies, including steam systems and dryers, to optimize production efficiency and quality. The operational process begins with sourcing raw cashews from local cooperatives, ensuring a direct income stream for approximately 1.5 million smallholder farmers. The plant employs a hybrid energy system, combining solar power and biogas from cashew shell waste, reducing reliance on non-renewable fuels like butane and wood, as demonstrated in prior projects like the Dakoro facility.
This system cuts energy costs by up to 83% and improves working conditions by reducing smoke and heat. The facility will create over 1,000 direct jobs, with a focus on women, who constitute 90% of cashew processing workers, and indirectly support 3,000 additional farmers through increased demand. The plant's annual budget includes CFA $500,867,000 for purchasing cashews, injecting $1 million into the local economy. It operates under a cooperative model, with government, private sector, and community shareholding, similar to the Yako tomato plant. Quality control adheres to international standards to access markets in Europe and the US, where demand for cashew byproducts like juice is growing. The facility also incorporates waste management, using cashew shells for energy and pulp for animal feed, ensuring sustainability and minimizing environmental impact. Why is cashew waste valuable? Cashew waste, particularly the apple and shell, is valuable due to its versatility and economic potential. The cashew apple, which makes up 90% of the fruit's weight, is rich in vitamins, especially vitamin C, and minerals, but is often discarded due to its astringent taste and anti-nutrients like tannins. However, it can be processed into high-value products: food and beverages, juice, wine, vinegar, and jams, as seen in Senegal's Zena Exotic Fruits, which developed cashew apple butter for export. These products tap into growing global demand for natural and exotic foods, with a Paine plant targeting markets in Europe and Asia. Alcohol production. Fermented cashew apple juice yields ethanol, used in spirits or industrial applications, adding a high-margin product line. Animal feed. Pulp and processed apple residues serve as nutritious feed for livestock, addressing food security in rural areas. Bioenergy. Cashew shells, rich in oil, can be gasified to produce biogas for powering processing. Plants, as demonstrated in the Dakoro project, which replaced 83% of fossil fuel use. Shells also yield cashew nut shell liquid, CNSL, used in industrial resins and coatings, with a global market valued at $300 million in 2024 and Burkina Faso, 400,000 tons of cashew apples are wasted annually, representing a lost opportunity worth millions. Processing these reduces waste, creates jobs, and generates export revenue. For example, a shelled cashew nut is worth 3.5 times more than a raw nut, and byproducts like juice can fetch premium prices in international markets. This approach also mitigates environmental degradation by reducing organic waste and supports Burkina Faso's climate resilience goals, as cashew trees combat desertification. How is Traoré's vision shifting Burkina Faso's economy? Ibrahim Traoré's vision is transforming Burkina Faso's economy from raw commodity dependence to industrialized self-sufficiency, with the cashew plant as a flagship initiative. Since seizing power in 2022, Traoré has pursued policies to retain resource value domestically, inspired by Thomas Sankara's anti-imperialist legacy. Key shifts include industrialization. The Paini cashew plant, alongside a 2023 gold refinery, 2024 shea processing ban, and tomato and cotton factories, aims to process raw materials locally. In 2024, only 10% of Burkina Faso's 150,000-ton cashew harvest was processed domestically. The Paini plant will increase this capacity, boosting GDP from $18.8 billion to $22.1 billion between 2023 and 2025. Job creation. The cashew sector employs 1.5 million smallholder farmers and thousands in processing, with the Paini plant adding 1,000 direct jobs and supporting 3,000 farmers. This focus on rural employment, especially for women, addresses the 40% poverty rate. Food sovereignty. By producing juice, vinegar, and animal feed, the plant reduces reliance on imported food products, aligning with Traoré's goal of self-sufficiency. His distribution of $180.7 million in agricultural equipment, tractors, fertilizers, in 2024 boosted crop yields, further supporting this vision. Geopolitical realignment. Traoré's rejection of Western aid and partnerships with Russia and China, e.g., $2 billion in Chinese infrastructure investments, funds these initiatives without IMF conditionalities, enhancing economic autonomy. Despite these advances, challenges persist. Jihadist insurgencies control 40% of Burkina Faso's territory, displacing 2 million people and closing schools and health facilities. Human rights concerns, like the 2025 Solenzo massacre and delayed elections until 2029, raise questions about governance. Yet, projections suggest an 8% GDP growth rate through 2043, potentially lifting 2.4 million Burkinabés out of poverty, driven by Traoré's reforms. Why is the West watching closely? The West is closely monitoring Traoré's cashew initiative and broader policies due to their economic, geopolitical, and ideological implications. Key reasons include loss of economic influence. The Paini plant and similar projects reduce Western firms' access to cheap raw cashews, previously exported to India and Vietnam. In 2024, Western companies like Canada's Barrick Gold lost mining concessions to nationalization, signaling a broader trend. The cashew sector's growth threatens Western dominance in Africa's $7.8 billion cashew market. Geopolitical shifts. Traoré's alignment with Russia, via Africa Core Security, and China, infrastructure funding, challenges U.S. and French influence. General Langley's April 2025 criticism of Traoré's gold reserve use sparked protests, reflecting anti-Western sentiment. The AES's formation with Mali and Niger further isolates ECOWAS, seen as a Western proxy. Ideological threat. Traoré's Pan-Africanist rhetoric, invoking Sankara, inspires anti-colonial movements across Africa. His policies, like suspending raw cashew exports, could set a precedent for other nations, threatening Western economic models reliant on raw material exports. Social media amplifies this, with ex-posts like at Africa Fact Zone praising Traoré's industrialization. Security concerns. The Sahel's instability, with 40% of Burkina Faso under jihadist control, affects Western counterterrorism strategies. The U.S. fears Traoré's Russian-backed security model could undermine AFRICOM's $2 billion operations, prompting closer scrutiny. What does this mean for Africa's future in global trade? The Paini cashew plant and Traoré's vision signal a transformative shift for Africa's role in global trade, with implications beyond Burkina Faso. Value addition. By processing cashews locally, Burkina Faso sets a model for African nations to retain more value from their resources. UNCTAD notes that Africa processes only 10% of its 2.3 million tons of cashew nuts, losing billions in potential revenue. Scaling this model could boost Africa's agricultural market from $280 billion in 2023 to $1 trillion by 2030. Regional integration. The AES promotes intra-African trade, with Burkina Faso's cashew products targeting markets in Mali and Niger. This reduces reliance on Western and Asian markets, fostering Pan-African economic unity. However, the AES's 0.5% tariff on external goods may strain relations with ECOWAS. Sustainability and jobs. Local processing creates jobs, e.g., 12,300 per 100,000 tons of capacity in Ivory Coast, and promotes sustainable practices like agroforestry, countering desertification. This aligns with global demand for ethical, eco-friendly products, enhancing Africa's competitiveness. Geopolitical leverage. By partnering with Russia and China, African nations gain negotiating power against Western trade dominance.
However, this risks new dependencies, as seen in Russian security ties. Challenges, security issues, governance concerns, and initial capital costs, e.g., Payne's $11.5 million, limit scalability. Burkina Faso's political instability and human rights issues may deter some investors. Though Traoré's reforms aim to boost investor confidence by 2043, this shift could position Africa as a global agricultural powerhouse, reducing poverty for millions of smallholder farmers. However, success depends on overcoming security challenges, building robust institutions, and balancing new partnerships with true economic independence. Traoré's Cashew initiative is a bold step toward redefining Africa's place in global trade, challenging centuries-old extractive models.